I'm Alejandra Lopez, President of the San Antonio Alliance. Today, our coalition of students, educators, parents and guardians, and public health experts is calling on state and local leaders to keep public schools closed for in-person instruction for at least the first 9 weeks of the new school year. This is not a position that we take lightly. Schools are vital to our community and the educational, social, and physical development of our youth. As an inclusive coalition representing educators' unions, parents, students, community members, and public health experts, we have carried out research on best practices for reopening and created a detailed roadmap for the next steps in safely reopening Bexar County public schools. The conditions laid out in our blueprint are necessary, but not in themselves sufficient to allow for a safe start to the new school year. We're committed to the task of returning safely to in-person instruction in school buildings, but present conditions across our communities make a safe return impossible. In our assessment, the minimum criteria for reopening schools have not been met, and Bexar County public schools cannot be reopened safely under these conditions. Public health officials are warning of the risks of premature school reopening. As a city and county with high levels of community transmission, we are not equipped to address the anticipated COVID-19 outbreaks that will occur when schools open. We lack the capacity to adequately test, track, and trace the spread of the virus, and the infrastructure to ensure that our schools and school communities are protected. In fact, no other city, state, or country has attempted to open schools while viral spread is uncontrolled. And all other global attempts at school reopening have taken place under conditions of much lower levels of infection and transmission. The spread of COVID-19 in our community has not been contained. Rather, cases have grown exponentially since the spring semester when schools were closed to protect our communities from the pandemic's effects. The current statistics for San Antonio are stark and show that the crisis our community faces is much more severe now than it was when all San Antonio schools were closed earlier this year. San Antonio has almost 20,000 confirmed cases, with 94% of cases from close contact or community spread, and 65% of those confirmed cases are still ill as of July 11th. San Antonio is nearing hospital capacity, with 89% of hospital beds in use as of July 11th. San Antonio added over 4,500 cases between July 4th and July 11th. We understand the central importance of our public schools in the economic health of our city. However, as we have learned firsthand in San Antonio, we cannot have an economic recovery unless the coronavirus is effectively contained. Premature school reopenings are likely to exacerbate rather than alleviate the pandemic's effects on our local economy and make this crucial economic recovery more difficult to achieve. And we understand that school is the safest place for many of our students. We must develop plans to provide extensive support for those students most in need of a safe space during the day. And we are committed to grappling with the complexities of this situation in collaboration with district leaders. But these solutions cannot be dependent on the unsafe and premature reopening of schools. The risks of continued school closings to our students are undeniable and a cause of grave concern. But our primary responsibility must be to protect human life and the safety of our students, their families, and the educators and staff who serve them. In order to prioritize the safety of our most vulnerable and most directly impacted community members, we must understand that premature and unsafe reopening plans will be most dangerous for the very vulnerable students who we seek to protect. The issues that our communities face are the results of years of racism, underinvestment, and intentional abandonment of our communities by state and national leaders who have chosen not to provide us with the resources which educators, youth, and families need to thrive. We cannot ask school workers to risk their lives in papering over the gaping inequities in economic and social policy that this pandemic is highlighting. We are struggling not so much to overcome an achievement gap, but to repay an education debt long owed to our communities, a debt that cannot be repaid by educators and schools alone, but that necessitates a fundamental restructuring of American society in the interests of all. And we must fight not only for the public schools, but the fully resourced communities that our students and their families deserve. All frontline personnel should be paid to stay home while not at work during this time. No one should have to choose between their health and providing for their families, paying rent, mortgages, and bills. We should ensure that every member of our community is protected, not only from the pandemic itself, but also from its economic effects, even as state leaders demonstrate how little they care about working people or their lives. We call for rent and mortgage cancellation across San Antonio, a moratorium on evictions, and direct cash assistance for those out of work. Our leaders should immediately move to provide hazard pay for all those whose work is deemed so essential that they must report to campuses and work sites in person, like custodians, cafeteria workers, and educators providing crucial support for special education students or others in dire need of in-person instruction. We reaffirm our commitment to working people across the city and our solidarity with their struggle in the richest country in human history for the means to support their families and to live lives of dignity and respect. We call on all elected leaders, our members, educators, parents and guardians, and students in our schools to intervene to prevent dangerous and premature school reopening plans from taking place. Call your school board member, call the superintendent, call your principal, the mayor, and city council. Call the governor and the TEA. Speak with the families you serve and ask them to understand that it's simply too dangerous to start in-person instruction at this time. Speak with your coworkers and let's fight together to keep our school communities safe. It's going to take all of us to pull this off. Every educator, parent, and guardian, every community member. So let's get to work. You can find links to action steps above. The lives of educators, students, and their families must be prioritized above all other considerations, and none of us should be returning to school campuses until it's safe. Our message is clear and unambiguous. No in-person instruction until it's safe, and that means at least 9 weeks.